watching dolphins, catching fish. This was the day-to-day of our sailor's life as we went south along Mexico's coastline. Then, a series of unusual events was about to change how we saw fishing from here on out, inspired by one man's creative solution for his fishing community. The weather was blazing hot in the month of May, just before the beginning of the wet season in Mexico. We were sailing fast down the Pacific coast in our trimaran Aldebaran, en route to Ixtapa to drop off our visitors, Pierre and Liana. The 6 crew aboard the boat had gone through so many intense experiences in the last week, we were now more family than ever. Starting with Pierre's leg getting stitched by Sabrina, rest days in a villa in Punta Mita, kindly offered by a family friend, the jaw-dropping discovery of the magic log, and finally our sneak into a prohibited island to find waves and crash in a party of a huge ship which was conducting questionable activities. Our heads were still spinning from all these events as we settled down for dinner on an overnight passage.
It was a lovely dinner on this dark and breezy night, when suddenly something smacks me in the back of my head. At first I thought it was a flying fish, but then, staring back at me in complete shock, was this squid. Eventually, we found another 40 of these squid scattered on deck the next morning, but the first one was special. Ryan baited him on our trolling rig at first light, and within 15 minutes the reel was zigging madly. We couldn't believe what we pulled up.
It was hard to believe that flying squid had plopped into our laps, literally, and when we put it in the water with a hook, up emerged a 20-pound yellowfin tuna. It's a magic, metaphysical kind of moment. Of course, as soon as we were anchored in a calm cove in Chamela Bay, we channeled all our enthusiasm and spent the day making sushi, gorging ourselves on a huge feast of ahi rolls layered in every combination possible. Up to this point, we saw fishing as a way to harvest protein from the sea, from the bonitos and yellowtails of Baja to the crevel jacks that started appearing in mainland Mexico. Despite our love for catching fresh fish, we're also keenly aware of the problem of overfishing. Fisheries regulations works in certain places, but marine reserves are increasingly accepted as a solution to make sure fish continue to reproduce in healthy numbers. Much like the Cabo Pulmo Reserve we visited in Baja with crewmates Eric and Brian, which was established by the local community, a rare feat in an arena usually dominated by resistance from local fishermen, because they're naturally concerned that it will threaten their livelihood. But now the reserve is famous because of fish abundance multiplying 5-fold over 10 years, an unprecedented recovery. How do we reconcile our concerns in Mexico, where regulations and reserves are almost non-existent? This issue was, of course, quickly brushed aside when fresh sushi was at hand. Then into this scene walked in, or rather, paddled in, 4 Arrows.
Hi, I'm 4 Arrows, and also known as Don Jacobs. I live here on the Costa Alegre, one of the most beautiful oceans in the world.
I knew of 4 Arrows from the Fielding Institute, a graduate school in Santa Barbara where he is a professor. I told him about our arrival near his home in Chamela Bay, and he paddled out to meet us on Aldebaran.
Good
Did you see?
deal.
How are
Great
ya?
to see you.
He is a Native American of the Lakota tradition, and he was now helping the local fishermen set up a marine reserve in a really, really creative way.
If a pargo is this big, and it's a mother, it will give about 100,000 eggs. And they'll travel up to 75 kilometers outside of our little zone. if you let it reach maturity, 4 million eggs.
Oh, God.
No, once they
That's
see the
fish.
pictures of what will happen when fish get bigger, they start to get it. They just and the old men know that, and everybody knows that they have to go further to get the fish.
Yeah.
They just haven't connected the dots, right?
This fishing community is in the state of Colima, Mexico, living near Chamela Bay, where we met Four Arrows. After seeing how many small fish the local fishermen were catching, Four Arrows wanted to share this basic ecological science with the local fishing cooperative, and the need to make a marine reserve for the fish to recover.
And then I started using my kindergarten Spanish and talking about the fish, and all of a sudden they all started arguing and talking, and I looked over at Roberto. Oh my God. And bingo, they all raised their hand, and I said, did what happened that I thought happened? He said, yeah, they just voted on doing it.
Surprised as he was that they decided to move forward with the idea, Four Arrows now helped the fishing cooperative find the best location for a sanctuary, which ended up being just south of Chamela Bay, in a zone called Arroyo Seco, which is flanked on the right by a mangrove, called estero in Spanish, and rock pinnacles on the left, both excellent habitats for fish reproduction. But many questions remained. The hard part was about to begin.
We had 240 people of the community show up. We brought in the people from Cabo Pulmo that I had met, flew them in to answer questions, because there were a lot of questions. Is this another rich gringo thing kicking us off of our land, which is happening right here in a lot of places? And after 4 hours, these fishermen from Cabo Pulmo said, no, it's the best thing that ever happened to us. We're making more money with diving, and we love it.
Flying in the Cabo Pulmo fishermen who had 10 years experience in their own reserve to answer questions from the local community sealed the deal. But here was the catch. To create a marine reserve designation which gives the area official protection from poachers by the Navy requires a study that costs about $28,000.
The federal government didn't have money. So then my sister told me about the beer cooler and Kickstarter. You guys know about that, right?
What's the beer?
That thing is awesome.
Did you hear about that?
The famous cooler was Kickstarter's biggest project ever, but has since encountered tough times.
Mirrors and
USB chargers.
$14 million he gets for that? Jeez, my God. So I went on Kickstarter because of the cooler thing, right? I thought, if he can make $14 million on a cooler for beer, I should be able to help create a model for saving our oceans, right? I went on, there was no category for environmental or ecological or ocean. None. So I thought, well, food. I mean, seafood. And so they accepted it. And we made $28,000 in 60 days.
With the community signatures and funds in hand, now it was time to get official with the government. Four Arrows shares his vision on how these types of grassroots reserves could be scaled up into a sustainable model for ocean health.
That's why I chose to make this one only 16 square kilometers. There's one in Lundy, England, that is double the size of fish that's that size. It's the smallest size they recommend if it goes from 0 to 200 feet. For some reason, that's what you need. And so this is a small one, but they say if every 35 to 50 kilometers you have another small one,
Right.
and you have 4 or 5 of them, it's supposed to repopulate everything in between.
Awesome.
Conservationists and scientists have called for a network of marine reserves to allow fish to reproduce and maintain populations, both for commercial fishing and ecosystem balance. This has been created in places like the Channel Islands of California, Aldebaran's home port, and even in Baja's fishing cooperatives, which we visited earlier in our trip. The foremost challenge is opposition by fishermen who feel their livelihood is threatened and the resulting costs of enforcement. The grassroots, crowd-funded model of small reserves that Four Arrows is promoting could be a game changer. Fishermen can still access most of the ocean, with only limited parts protected for fish reproduction. Seafood lovers are happy, and the marine ecosystem is happy. We went to the proposed location for the Arroyo Seco Marine Reserve to check it out for ourselves. There were so many little colorful fish and coral, we could quickly see how this would become an amazing sanctuary. We enjoyed the area a lot and spent the final 2 days of the leg relaxing in the picturesque anchorages before dropping off our visiting crew in Ixtapa.
It is pretty nice.
Just when we thought the calm hot weather would never end, we pulled up a weather chart, saw something really ominous that would for sure affect the next part of our journey.
Like a railroad disaster, life is speeding faster.